In the science storyline approach used in OpenSciEd, the sequence of activities is designed to make sense to students. These storylines were developed based on input from hundreds of classrooms and the questions students actually asked. So let's dig in and see how the story of Unit 7.1 unfolds. OpenSciEd units are organized into collections of lessons called lesson sets. And a lesson set is just a group of lessons that's focused on figuring out a certain part of our phenomena. And at the end of a lesson set, students put their ideas together to explain what they can at that point. So in the first half of the unit, students investigate where does the gas that forms when the bath bomb is added to water, where does it come from? Then, now that they know a new substance has formed, lesson set 2 is focusing on figuring out, well, how can we even get something new that wasn't there before? So let's take a closer look at each of these lessons. So in lesson 1, our anchor, we know that we observe the bath bombs, we develop our initial explanations, we identify related phenomena, we generate our driving question board and ideas for investigations. And we're wondering, like, what's making the gas? And one of our ideas is that the gas might be trapped inside. So in lesson 2, we look closely at the solid bath bomb, we crush it, we add it to water, and we weigh it before and after to see if the gas is part of the bath bomb to begin with. And we figure out, nope, it's not trapped, so it must come from stuff that's already there. So then in lesson 3, we observe the ingredients in the recipes for properties. We add the ingredients one at a time to water to see if any of those produce the gas. And we figure out, nope, the gas is not produced when one ingredient at a time is added to water. So this motivates in lesson 4, well, then let's try it in different combinations. So we combine ingredients and we figure out that it's the citric acid, baking soda, and water that's causing these bubbles to appear. So in lesson 5, we use properties of flammability and density to identify what gas is produced. And we figure out that the gas from the bath bomb could be carbon dioxide, nitrogen, or argon. And finally, in lesson 6, we apply what we figured out so far about properties to explain a related phenomenon, elephant's toothpaste. Now we're set up for lesson set 2. And we start in lesson 7 by revising our model using everything we've figured out so far. And we think that the gas produced must be a new substance. But how could the particles of the bath bomb and the particles of the water create the particles of the gas? And you see that we have a bunch of question marks on our revised model. So this motivates us to a series of lessons where we're trying to figure out what's happening at a particle level. So in lesson 8, we brainstorm a bunch of different ways we could get new particles. We read about ways other scientists have tried to figure this out. And then we're motivated to see if we can try to create new particles ourselves. So in lesson 9, we do that. We first try to add heat to water, and we use property data to determine what gases are produced. And we figure out, nope, no new substance is formed when water is heated. So in lesson 10, we try another way to see if we can get new particles. We add electricity to the water. And we figure out that adding electricity to the water does result in a chemical reaction and 2 new gases. So in lesson 11, we use various types of models and manipulatives to represent atoms and molecules and figure out what's happening with the particles during a chemical reaction. And we figure out that in a chemical reaction, the particles are broken apart and the atoms are rearranged to form new molecules and substances. So in lesson 12, we use all of the evidence to explain what's going on with our bath bomb. And we figure out there is a chemical reaction with the bath bomb that results in a new substance and that the mass is conserved. So by the time we get to lesson 13, we've answered most of the questions on our driving question board, but usually there are some questions left over about odor. So in lesson 13, we investigate scents of different substances, and we figure out that some substances can be identified by their odor, and each substance has a unique molecular structure. So finally, in lesson 14, we apply what we figured out to a new phenomena, what's happening to the marble of the Taj Mahal. So that's the storyline for Unit 7.1. It's designed to follow students' questions and build big ideas one step at a time. You don't have to have it all figured out. Just be ready to wonder right alongside them.